Welcome to the weekend. Welcome to the weekend. Also, welcome to the new year. Welcome to 2016. You did it. You made it. You made it to 2016. Did you believe this year would even happen? I got really excited there. So here we are in 2016. Ooh. My neighbors are like hammering on the wall. Ooh. Anyways, here we are in 2016, like I was saying, and we made it, and I just feel really proud of me and all of us, and yes. I also, side note, I also feel really nervous because it's been a while since I have, because I had a really big, words. It was a really big December, a lot happened. A lot has changed in my life very quickly, as it tends to happen to me often. So I'm not surprised by that, but I love that it happens that way, but it's just been a lot a lot has happened and it's lovely. And anyways, blah, blah. So I feel very nervous making a video. I feel like I missed you all very, very much, and I was sad to be gone for so long, but I'm glad that I took a break because I feel a lot better about. I was having a really rough mental health. My beard is itchy. Have I showed off my beard to you yet? It's very little. This is my little intersex beard, though. I don't even think you can see it, but I hope you can. Anyways, I forget what I was saying. Oh, mental health. That's what this topic is about. Did you know that? This whole week we've been talking about mental health now that it's almost Sunday. So my mental health was really challenging and hard to take care of for the last, 6 weeks. It's been really rough, and so I needed to take a break to take care of that, and I was going through, creative burnout from being in school, making video, and, being on this schedule, and then I, reached my holiday break, and I was like, ooh, I have to, collapse for a minute, and so I did, in a lot of ways. I'm going to put a lot more, I'm going to talk a lot more at length about, what happened on my personal channel, so you can feel free to check that out. Link somewhere probably below or around here. But here we're talking about mental health today, so before I take up all the time with my rambling, let me talk about mental health and how it intersects with gender. Oh, they're pounding again. So the way I see it for me in my life is that I have had mental health problems since I was a baby, since I was very, very young, before I could walk. And I have been forming my gender since I was born, and so I'm in my head at least, it logically makes sense that the two have been very much intersecting, parallel, entangled in one another for the whole time. And a lot of my gender identity, a lot of the ways I define my gender directly are directly part of my mental health and my neurodivergence and what it's like to be inside my brain. So what I want to share with you is, I guess, my mental health diagnoses and how those have come about, and a little bit more about how those directly impact my gender and being trans out in the world. So, okay, my mental health, the things that I've been diagnosed with or that I have diagnosed myself with, is complex PTSD or CPTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in case you don't know what PTSD stands for. That one I was diagnosed with when I was, I don't know, it's been a few years. I'm not going to use up time trying to remember years. These were... I'm not going to try and remember all the years that I was diagnosed with these because I don't know. It's been very recent, in the last few years, because for a long time the only thing doctors were willing to really say was oh, you're definitely anxious and depressed and sometimes suicidal. And I was like, yes, I know. So it's just been the last few years that like I have taken my mental health really seriously, and that I have like demanded that doctors take it really seriously, and so, or I try to. I'm not very demanding of mental health professionals. Anyways, so blah blah blah. So complex PTSD, which is like PTSD from like prolonged multiple traumas. So from like the first time I was physically abused that I know of was when I was 6 months old, and so that is when PTSD started, and then it kept happening like for a long time, and so it's not just like one healing from one trauma; it's healing from like a couple decades of trauma. And then I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Um, I will talk about this year. This was in 2014. So I was like 25. And I was doing a partial hospitalization program where I was going to the hospital like every day, and I did this for about 5 weeks. In the middle of there, I also stayed at the hospital for 5 days, like in like inpatient care. And during this time, they were observing like how quickly my mood changes, how rapidly I shift through things, and like how centered around fear of people leaving me, abandoning me, that is. And I like my everything was consistent with borderline personality disorder. It was a great way to explain everything. But they also here's the strange thing is that they told me like they diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder, but then also told me that it wasn't a real diagnosis, that it wasn't a real disorder, that like it was like this catch-all phrase for things that they didn't know how to explain. So they like gave me a diagnosis and then like took away the diagnosis in the same swooping hand. And so for a long time I haven't like known how to deal with that. Like I didn't know if I should like claim it or not. And then then like for the past, I don't know, 6 months I've been like, yeah, I definitely feel that one, like relate with that one highly, but have been really scared to talk about it. But now I'm talking about it, so there you go. I identify as having borderline personality disorder. More recently, I've started to identify as also having dissociative identity disorder because I recognize a pattern of that disorder from a very very young age. Like big swooping personality changes from, yes. So I self-diagnosed myself with dissociative identity disorder. And have talked about that a little bit on my personal channel. I'll probably talk more about it as I learn more, but it's very early and I'm still nervous to talk about it because it makes me not have words. Speaking of not having words, I also have self-diagnosed myself with autism. And I've had some doctors agree with me immediately and other doctors be like, no, you can't have autism because you have PTSD, or like, no, you can't be autistic because you have intelligence, or like your IQ is this score. And I'm like, I've never taken an IQ test in my life. How do you know that? So anyways, frustrated about that, but it's so helpful to have like diagnosed myself with autism spectrum disorder and to be like taking care of myself in the way that an autistic adult needs to care for oneself, because I'm like, I don't know. It's like there are ways that neurotypical people and allistic or non-autistic people need to care for themselves, but if an autistic person that were to behave that way, it makes a lot of things worse. So like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain that one right now. But like, don't know how to explain the one right now. Moving on. Anyways, I am so having diagnosed myself with having like done that. I did that like almost a year ago now. So like last February, March, I diagnosed myself with autism, and since then have learned so many ways to care for myself, have gained so much more like ability to recognize my emotions and recognize my needs, and have become a happier person. And I've like it's so that is super related too with gender, like super related. I'll talk about that in a minute. I also have been diagnosed with ADHD, and that one I'm like, maybe not, don't know, but probably. But I hate taking the medications that they give out for that. They make me like stop eating, and they make me not like they make me not able to sit still or to like process. They just make me like it's like wired. It's how I imagine it would feel doing. Never mind. Um. So, anyways, that I don't know, but I don't know. That's all. Um. And then I have, but I told you I was diagnosed with like anxiety and depression all the time. And that, I don't know, seems to affect a lot of life. Can't stop it from doing that. And then finally, eating disorder. This is another one that I like self-diagnosed basically as having, I guess it's like a form of anorexia, but sometimes it's bulimia too because I throw up a lot. But not like on purpose. It's just like I need to do a long video about eating disorder, but I need to move on because I have a lot to get through. But that being said, like that's another facet of mental health and physical health that is part of my gender, like part of struggling with my body and my, I don't know, everything, life, being poor. Having an eating disorder very much relates to like having not a lot of financial resources. So, how this like it all intersects with gender, but it's hard to talk about how it does so much. For me, it's like my mental health is like uh, so much a part of everything in my life, like a way that my whole life has to be shaped for me because it's like I'm sick with PTSD and I'm like struggling to figure out ways to heal from that. And because of my gender, it makes it, and because of the way that gender is performed, I guess, or like my pronoun choice, they and them. My pronoun choice, like my pronouns. I don't like calling it a choice because it's not really a choice. It's like, they're my pronouns. Anyways, so all of that intersects with my ability to access mental health. For example, I'm trying to get placed with a therapist right now, and I just had to do this assessment, and started off right away the assessment telling this person that I was like, I really am nervous that you're going to misgender me. You're going to use the wrong pronouns, and that is not like that's an awful thing to do. And the person was like, oh, yes, well, I try very, very hard, but sometimes I make a mistake. And I'm like, okay, well, what can you do? But that's like code word. That's like a phrase that I've heard so many cis therapists say when they say it to be like, it's like to excuse their inability to learn somebody's pronouns. So, that like, that right there. So, by the time I left there, I had been misgendered, and I had been like, I don't know. It was not a good experience. My gender identity was not respected, and so then, like, my ability to access mental health care is impacted because I don't ever want to go back. I don't want to even call them back because in the phone message they left me, this person, I was misgendered like I think 15 times, and then at the end they correctly pronounced me I think about 3 times. And so I'm like, no. Why would I go and talk to you about my struggles? Like, wow. Anyways, that aside, that's a big way that these intersect because it's more about like having to work on my mental health like with my own resources and my own, I don't know exactly how to talk about that one anymore. It also relates to like because I have so much anxiety about like about being out in public because of trauma, because of like being misgendered, mispronounced all the time. And so, and like bathrooms are, you all know this, I'm sure, bathrooms are the most stressful thing because you have to deliberately misgender yourself. You have to pick a gender that isn't yours, and you have to go in there and do your business. And and I hate this, and sometimes I can do it and sometimes I just can't. And like tonight I was out with my partner and I had to pee like from the moment we sat down at this place, and it's a totally friendly place, and I've never, like, I feel safe and comfortable there for the most part. Like, I will eat there, which is a big deal because I don't like to eat in public either. And but like could not, I was too anxious to go pee, even though I was like, it's safe, nobody's gonna bother me, it's a safe restaurant, and even if someone did bother me, like, I believe the staff there would come to my defense. But like, I still had to think there, like, well, what if someone did? And then I'd be like, oh. So then I just held it until I got home because it was easier. But like, I don't know. That directly impacts everything, that anxiety and that, like, oh, yes. So, I want to say about like a little bit about like self-diagnosis versus doctor diagnosis, and then I want to talk about a few things I've learned, and then that'll be it. This is a really long video, I'm guessing, but you're welcome. Happy New Year! So, I think that some doctors probably are really great and know what they're doing and could really be helpful. Finding those doctors is really hard, and I don't encounter them very often. Finding doctors willing to like actually discuss what you believe is wrong with, like, what you believe about yourself, what you believe to be true, that's really hard to find, and I have not found that very often. And so I take doctors' diagnosis and lack of diagnosis with a big old sack of salt. Do you have that expression in other countries besides America? Grain of salt? Like, I take their words and I don't always believe them. I listen to them and then I go home and I think about it for a long time before I decide if I believe what they said or if I believe something different. Because what's most important to me is, what do I believe? Because that's true for me. That's my truth, I guess. So that's why I also really firmly believe in self-diagnosis, because there are a lot of things like autism that are like held behind lock and key, and you have to pay money in order to get that diagnosis, and you have to have like childhood record of something that you might not have access to. So it's not a fair system. It doesn't allow for people with these disorders to be diagnosed, or these neurodivergences, sorry. It doesn't allow people with these neurodivergences to be diagnosed because of lack of access, because of lack of money, because of lack of doctors being willing to believe you. So, that's why I think that, like, it's really important to believe, like, I think it's important to be a little bit skeptical of what doctors say, and to be really kind and, like, believe yourself about what you believe, about what you think is going on with yourself, because you know yourself. You live with yourself 24/7. You literally cannot get away from yourself. Sorry. Anyways, moving on. So what I want to talk about finally is what I've learned, because I've been doing this for a while and I've learned things, and maybe that would be helpful. First thing I've learned is that your feelings are your feelings no matter what. Like, they are always yours, they are always valid. Have them. Feel them. Like, express them. Make space for them, whatever they are, because the more you see your feelings and the more you get to, like, live in them, like, feel them, the easier it's going to be to understand yourself, I think. That's what I've learned for me. Second thing is that kindness towards yourself is all of, like, if you are one self, if you're a multi-self being, like, be kind towards all of you. Because you're, like, you are you, and you are your person, and, like, kindness is, the more kind you can be to yourself, the better. Like, that's what I've learned for me. Like, the more kind I can be to me, the better I feel, the more happy I get, the more I'm able to function in my life. Your third thing, your gender is yours no matter what. Like, whatever you are, it's yours. And you can define that, you cannot define that, you can understand it, you cannot understand it. It's yours. It doesn't matter. And your mental health might intersect with that, might not, might sometimes, might not other times, might be highly involved, not involved at all. There's a big spectrum out there, you know? And it's and no matter what, your gender is valid. If it intersects with your mental health, if it doesn't, if you feel like it's related, if you feel like it doesn't, your gender is yours. Your gender is yours. It's yours. All yours. Number 4, believe yourself. Nobody knows you the way you do. Nobody spends as much time with you like you do. Nobody's inside of you. Believe you. You know a lot of shit about yourself. Stuff. Sorry about swearing. Not sorry. I really like swear words. 5 and final, ask for help. This is very hard and scary. I have a hard time asking for help. I'm a very stubborn human person thing. And I know. But there are people out there who do love you and care for you. And asking those people for help, it is a great way to involve them in your life. And the good people who love you, who are in your life, like, they want to be involved. This is hard to believe. I have a really hard time believing this too, but I have people in my life who keep showing this to me, and so I'm starting to believe it better. That, like, people who really love me and care for me want to help me. They want me to ask them for help. It makes them feel nice. So if there are people, I hope there are people like that in your life. And those are the people to ask for help, because it'll make them feel good to help you. It's like a boost for them. So you're doing them a favor. You're helping them help you by helping you. You know, those are the words. Okay. I don't know how long I've been talking, but it's probably a really long time. Whatever. Hope you enjoy. In other words, I feel self-conscious about how long I've been talking and nervous because, you know, it's 2016 and it's my first video of the new year. Okay. I hope you all are having a wonderful new year. I just feel so much love towards you all. And would love to hear about any mental health resources you have found helpful, or ideas or tips, anything in the comments below. That'd be great. Anything else? You don't think so? Can't remember, so that's all. I love you all. Believe in yourself. I will see you next weekend. Hang in there till then and have a good week. Bye.